Snow fell endlessly, swallowing the world in a white, merciless quiet. The storm had raged for 3 days straight, sealing off the mountain trails and burying every trace of the path that led to the nearest town. Inside a small log cabin on the edge of the northern frontier, Elara sat shivering by the fire, her blanket wrapped tightly around her frail shoulders. Her lips trembled, not from the cold alone, but from the weight of everything she'd seen that day. Hours earlier, she'd stumbled through the blizzard, her boots sinking into the deep snow, her breath shallow and panicked. The storm howled around her like a living creature. Behind her, she'd left everything: her burned-out home, the bodies of those she couldn't save, and the distant echo of her own scream swallowed by the wind. Now she sat before the flames, her body thawing painfully. Her skin, once numb, began to sting as warmth returned. Across the room, a man watched silently. Jonas Hale, a solitary frontiersman, had found her collapsed near the tree line and carried her back to his cabin. His voice had barely broken the silence since. "You should drink this," he said, offering a cup of hot broth. Elara's trembling hands reached for it, her eyes darting toward him cautiously. He looked like someone carved out of the same rugged land, tall, broad-shouldered, with a beard touched by frost. His presence filled the room, steady and patient. "Thank you," she whispered. The fire crackled, casting flickering shadows across the log walls. Outside, the wind roared, testing the cabin's strength. Inside, the silence between them grew thick, heavy with unspoken questions. After a while, she spoke again. "The storm. It came fast. My father was still outside with the horses. I tried to find him, but—" Her voice broke. She pressed her hand to her mouth, her eyes glistening with tears. Jonas didn't move closer, didn't touch her. He simply nodded, as if acknowledging pain was its own kind of comfort. The storm took many by surprise. "You did what you could." She shook her head. "I ran." He looked into the fire, his jaw tight. "Sometimes that's all there is to do." The flames danced brighter, filling the silence between them. In that moment, Elara realized something. The warmth wasn't just from the fire. It was the fragile thread of life refusing to let go, burning quietly against the storm outside. The night deepened. The snow pressed against the windows like ghosts trying to get in. Elara lay near the hearth, exhaustion pulling her into uneasy dreams, flashes of fire, screams, and the sound of her father's voice calling her name. When she woke, Jonas was still there, sitting in the same chair by the window, watching the storm ease into a ghostly calm. The world outside had frozen in silence. Days passed in slow, uncertain rhythm. The storm had stopped, but the world outside was buried. Jonas chopped wood each morning, his breath steaming in the icy air as Elara stayed inside, tending the fire and trying to recover strength. Sometimes, when she stared into the flames too long, memories came back like whispers. Her father's laughter, the crack of the collapsing roof, the burning smell of pine and smoke. Jonas rarely spoke of himself. His cabin was sparse, built for survival, not comfort. Yet every detail carried a story. The rifle over the mantel, the old map nailed to the wall, the faded photograph of a woman and child. "Your family?" Elara asked softly one evening. Jonas looked up from sharpening his knife. "Was," he said simply. She hesitated. "The storm?" He shook his head. "Long before that." The way he said it made her stop asking. But later that night, as she watched him repair a broken latch by the firelight, she saw the faint tremor in his hands. There was loss in him, deep, quiet, and old. One night she awoke to a noise outside. A faint thud followed by scraping. Her heart raced. She rose quietly, wrapping her blanket around her shoulders, and stepped toward the window. Something moved among the trees, a dark figure swaying in the wind. She gasped, stumbling back. Jonas appeared instantly, lantern in hand. "What is it?" "I saw something," she whispered, pointing. He moved to the window, peering into the white abyss. The lantern light flickered over his face, revealing calm control, but also readiness, the instinct of a man who'd seen danger before. After a moment, he sighed. "Probably a branch fallen under the snow. Go back to sleep." But Elara didn't sleep. She lay awake listening to the wind, her mind replaying the shadow's movement. It hadn't looked like a branch. It had looked like a man. The next morning, Jonas was gone when she woke. A note lay on the table. Checking traps. Stay inside. Hours passed. The fire dwindled. Snow began to fall again, light but endless. The cabin creaked as the temperature dropped. Then, a knock. Elara froze. Her heart pounded. She turned slowly toward the door. "Jonas?" she called. No answer. Another knock, heavier this time. She reached for the iron poker by the fire, her breath quickening. "Who's there?" The latch rattled, and then silence. When Jonas finally returned at dusk, covered in frost and carrying a bundle of wood, she nearly collapsed in relief. But when she told him about the knock, his expression darkened. "You opened the door?" he asked. "No," she whispered. He stared at the floor for a long moment, then went to bar the door with an extra plank. "Don't open it," he said quietly. "No matter what you hear." That night the storm returned, and so did the knocking. The knocking grew louder as the wind howled outside. Elara sat by the fire, gripping the poker in trembling hands. Jonas stood near the door, rifle ready, eyes hard. "It's not the wind," she said, voice shaking. He nodded grimly. "I know." The sound came again, 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Then silence. Jonas waited a long time before lowering the rifle. "It's gone." But Elara couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone still lingered outside waiting. Days blurred together. The food supply ran low. Jonas rationed what little they had, hunting when the weather allowed. Elara stayed by the fire, fighting the dread that crept in whenever the wind rose. One morning she found him outside near the woodshed, staring at something half buried in the snow. "A man's boot," she gasped. "Someone was here," Jonas said, "frozen, maybe days ago." They dug through the snow until they uncovered the body. A stranger wrapped in torn fur, his eyes open to the white sky. In his hand was a scrap of paper, stiff with ice. Elara took it carefully. The words, smudged but readable, said, "Cabin fire safe." Her heart sank. He was trying to find warmth. Jonas nodded slowly, guilt shadowing his face. He must have come the first night. The knocking. They buried the man near the tree line. Neither spoke for a long time. The silence between them wasn't empty now. It was heavy, human, and full of meaning. That night, as another storm approached, Elara sat close to the fire. Jonas sat beside her for the first time. "He died seeking warmth," she murmured. "And we're still here." He nodded. "Sometimes that's all it takes, a bit of warmth and someone to share it with." The storm outside roared, but inside the fire burned steady. The glow touched their faces, soft and golden. Elara leaned her head against Jonas's shoulder, the weight of fear slowly fading. The cabin no longer felt like a prison. It was shelter, sanctuary. As the blizzard screamed against the walls, 2 souls sat quietly by the fire, not untouched by pain, but bound by it. And in that frozen silence, warmth lived on.